It was just another ordinary Saturday for Marcus Hale. The kind of day he usually spent nursing lukewarm coffee in a park near his apartment, watching joggers pass and kids play while the world spun on. At 39, Marcus had grown used to the quiet rhythm of solitude. He didn't mind being alone, not anymore. After years of building a life with someone who eventually walked away, Marcus had learned to find peace in the stillness. But fate, as it often does, had other plans. He was about to leave when he saw her, a little girl no older than 6, sitting on a bench across the park, clutching a teddy bear and scanning the crowd with wide, panicked eyes. Her clothes were clean but slightly disheveled, and her small shoes dangled just above the ground as if she hadn't quite grown into them yet. Something in her stillness caught his eye. While the world around her bustled with laughter and noise, she sat frozen, her gaze darting back and forth like a deer caught in headlights. Marcus approached slowly, careful not to alarm her. "Hey there," he said gently, crouching to her eye level. "Are you okay? Are you waiting for someone?" The girl looked up at him, and in her eyes he saw it: fear, confusion, and something that tugged at a part of him he hadn't felt in years. "I can't find my mommy," she said, her voice trembling. "Okay," Marcus replied calmly, nodding. "We'll find her together. What's your name?" "Ava." "Well, Ava, I'm Marcus. Can I sit with you for a bit?" She nodded, clutching her bear tighter. He sat beside her, quietly surveying the park. No frantic mother in sight. No one shouting a child's name. "Do you know your mommy's phone number?" Ava shook her head. "She went to buy lemonade. I waited, but she didn't come back." Marcus's heart tightened. He had no idea how long she'd been sitting there. Minutes? An hour? People could be so wrapped up in their own worlds that a child on a bench became just another fixture in the background. He took out his phone and called the non-emergency police line, explaining the situation. As they waited, he talked to Ava about her bear, her favorite ice cream flavor, chocolate mint, and how her mom always read her a bedtime story even when she was tired. The police arrived quickly, kind but cautious. They asked questions, took notes, and assured Ava they'd find her mom. As the officers made calls, a woman came running into the park, her voice cracking with panic. "Ava." The little girl bolted from the bench, her bear falling to the ground as she flung herself into her mother's arms. The reunion was a blur of tears and apologies, the mother's face contorted in a mix of fear and relief. "I was just a few steps away," she sobbed. Turned around for a second and she was gone. Marcus stepped back, relieved to see Ava safe. But just as he turned to leave, the girl wriggled from her mother's grasp and ran back to him. She tugged on his jacket. He knelt down again, smiling. "You're okay now, Ava?" She looked at him with those deep, earnest eyes. Then she leaned in and whispered something that stopped his breath. "You look like my daddy." "Mommy says he's in heaven now," Ava said softly. "But I think you're what an angel looks like." Marcus blinked, unable to speak. The air around him seemed to shift, the noise of the park fading into the background. He hadn't thought about fatherhood in years, not since the miscarriage that slowly unraveled his marriage, piece by piece, until nothing was left but silence. He had buried that grief deep, convincing himself that children weren't in the cards. But in that whisper, in Ava's innocent words, something cracked open inside him. That night, Marcus sat by his window, the city lights glowing softly beyond the glass. He couldn't stop thinking about her, the way she looked at him, the weight of her words. It stirred something dormant, something he thought had died a long time ago. Over the following weeks, life resumed its usual pace, but Marcus was changed. He started volunteering at a local children's shelter on Saturdays. Just once at first. Then again. And again. Something about being around the kids, their boundless curiosity, their raw honesty, brought light into places he didn't know were still dark. One boy, Jeremy, reminded him a lot of himself. Quiet, observant, withdrawn. But Marcus had learned that all it took was someone to sit beside you and ask, "Are you okay?" That someone could shift the course of your life. He helped Jeremy with homework, played catch with him on Sundays, even taught him how to make the perfect grilled cheese. With each visit, Marcus felt himself rebuilding, like tiny bricks being laid in the foundation of something new, something real. Months later, the shelter coordinator approached him. "You've made a real difference," she said. Jeremy talks about you all the time. You ever thought about fostering? Marcus hesitated. The idea both scared and exhilarated him. He wasn't sure he was ready. But then he remembered Ava's whisper. You look like my daddy. You're what an angel looks like. He applied. The process was long, filled with background checks, interviews, home inspections. But Marcus was patient. He had learned the value of time, of waiting for the right moment to step into something bigger than yourself. A year from that day in the park, Jeremy came to live with him. The first night, the boy looked around Marcus's modest apartment and asked, "Is this really home?" Marcus knelt beside him, just like he had with Ava. "If you want it to be, then yes. This is home." They built a life from there. Weekend pancakes, school projects, inside jokes, and even quiet evenings where nothing needed to be said. Marcus wasn't trying to replace anyone. He was just showing up, every day with open hands and a full heart. One evening, Jeremy curled up beside him on the couch and whispered, "You're the best thing that ever happened to me." Tears welled in Marcus's eyes. Not because of sadness, but because he finally understood the power of showing up for someone. How one act of kindness, one moment of selflessness, could ripple through time and change not just one life but two. And to think it all started with a lost little girl on a park bench. In a world that often feels too busy, too divided, and too distracted, there are moments, tiny, unexpected moments, that remind us of our shared humanity. Marcus Hale didn't set out to change a life that day. He just sat down beside a scared little girl and listened. But in doing so, he found something he hadn't known he'd been searching for. A second chance, a sense of purpose, and a love he never expected to feel again. Kindness doesn't always roar. Sometimes it whispers. And sometimes, that whisper is all it takes to change everything.